The silent war between your mind and your method. You've studied the charts. You've backtested the system. You've run simulations, watched tutorials, refined every rule, every detail. On paper, your strategy works. In your journal, it works. In your mind, it makes perfect sense. But the moment you go live, something inside you shifts. The certainty you had while backtesting disappears. The clarity you had while planning evaporates. And suddenly, every rule feels negotiable. Every setup looks questionable. Every candle becomes a threat. You begin hesitating on entries. You cut winners early. You hold losers too long. You skip valid trades and take invalid ones. Not because the strategy is wrong, but because you don't trust it. Not in real time. And here's the part no one talks about. You don't trust your strategy because you don't trust yourself. Most traders think trust is about confidence in the system. But the real issue is deeper, more human, more painful. You don't believe you can execute it. You trust the logic, you trust the rules, you trust the math. But when the market opens and money is on the line, you don't trust your own ability to follow what you created. You think discipline is the problem. You think consistency is the problem. You think fear is the problem. But beneath all of it lies one brutal truth. You are psychologically disconnected from your own strategy. There is a gap between what you know and what you believe. And that gap, that tiny invisible space between logic and emotion, is where every blown account, every broken rule, every self-sabotaging click is born. Think about this. If your friend used your strategy and executed it perfectly for 3 months straight, you would celebrate them. You would tell them, "See, I told you it works." You'd feel pride, satisfaction, validation. But when you try to trade it, you don't feel any of that. Because deep down, you don't trust your own hands. You don't trust your patience. You don't trust your ability to endure uncertainty. You don't trust your emotional resilience when trades go into drawdown. And the worst part? You think you're alone in this. But every trader, even professionals, goes through it. Because humans are biologically wired to fear uncertainty more than pain. And trading strategies, even the best ones, require something your brain hates. Surrender. A strategy requires you to let the market unfold, to follow rules even when uncomfortable, to accept randomness, to accept loss, to accept not being in control. And your survival brain hates all of that, so it fights back, not with logic, but with emotion. That's why you find reasons to break rules. That's why you adjust your plan during live trades. That's why you doubt setups that worked perfectly in backtests. Your brain isn't sabotaging you because you're stupid. It's sabotaging you because it thinks it's protecting you. To your subconscious, the risk of following the strategy feels more dangerous than the risk of abandoning it, because abandoning it gives you the illusion of control. You think, if I modify this entry, I'll be safer. If I close early, I'll reduce risk. If I wait a little longer, maybe I'll avoid a bad trade. But every time you do this, you strengthen the belief that your emotions are more trustworthy than your rules. And eventually, the strategy loses credibility, not because it stopped working, but because you stopped believing in it. Let me tell you a story. It's about a trader named Raphael, brilliant analyst, terrible executioner. He created a trend-following system that backtested beautifully. Win rate, 52%. Risk to reward, excellent. Expectancy, positive. He sent it to a friend, His friend traded it flawlessly and doubled the account in 7 months. Meanwhile, Raphael kept changing rules, interfering with trades, adjusting entries, and losing. He said to me, "How is my friend making money with my system, and I can't?" I looked at him and said, "Because your friend trusts your rules more than you trust yourself." And that hit him hard, because it wasn't about knowledge. It wasn't about strategy flaws. It wasn't about the market. It was about identity. Deep down, Raphael didn't believe he deserved consistency. He didn't believe he was capable. He didn't believe he could behave like a professional. So he traded like someone who expected to fail. And what happens when you expect to fail? You sabotage the very process that could make you succeed. That's the real reason you don't trust your strategy. It's easier to blame the system than to face your own inner conflict.
You see, your strategy is not the problem. Your backtesting is not the problem. Your education is not the problem. The problem is the part of you that refuses to emotionally commit. The part of you that is terrified to surrender control. The part of you that has been burned by losses and now believes, "I need to protect myself from trading." So you protect yourself by destroying the very system that could protect you. It's psychological irony at its finest. You created the system to guide you, yet you abandon it the moment emotions rise. You jump between strategies not because they don't work, but because switching gives temporary relief. Relief feels like progress, but it isn't. It's escape. And escape kills trust. Every time you run from discomfort, you reinforce the belief that your plan cannot be relied on. So it's not that your strategy fails, it's that you fail to emotionally attach to it. Trust is not built in backtesting. Trust is built in uncertainty. Trust is built in discomfort. Trust is built when you follow the plan even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. And here's the most painful truth. You don't trust your strategy because you've broken your word to yourself too many times. Every broken rule leaves a scar. Every impulse exit leaves doubt. Every last-minute modification weakens your identity. Until eventually, you no longer believe yourself when you say, "This time I'll follow the plan." The lie has been repeated too many times, and your subconscious no longer buys it. You can't build trust without consistency. You can't build belief without evidence. You can't build discipline without self-respect. So your strategy isn't just waiting for you to follow it. It's waiting for you to become a trader who can follow it. And that transformation starts here, by reconnecting your mind with your method, by rebuilding trust, not in the charts, not in the rules, but in yourself. You think doubt is a sign that your strategy isn't good enough. You think hesitation means something is wrong with your system. But doubt doesn't come from faulty logic. Doubt comes from your brain trying to protect you from uncertainty. And until you understand this, you will keep rewriting strategies, adjusting rules, and jumping systems, not because you need a better method, but because your brain is terrified of committing to any method at all. Let's break it down. There are two versions of you in trading. The planner, calm, rational, analytical. This version of you backtests, researches, studies charts, calculates expectations, and builds systems with precision and logic. The planner is a genius. He sees patterns, he creates rules, he understands probability. He knows how to win. And the trader, emotional, reactive, impulsive. This version of you exists only during live execution. He feels fear, greed, stress, excitement, frustration, doubt. The trader is not logical. The trader is biological. The planner thinks in probabilities. The trader thinks in survival. And here's the tragedy. You expect your trader brain to behave like your planner brain, even though they are wired for opposite goals. The planner wants consistency. The trader wants safety. The planner wants structure. The trader wants control. The planner accepts risk. The trader fears risk. Your strategy was built by the planner, but executed by the trader. And until the trader learns to trust the planner, you will always sabotage yourself. Why you doubt your strategy even when you know it works? Doubt is not a flaw. Doubt is a survival mechanism. Human beings evolved in a world where uncertainty meant danger. A noise in the bushes could be the wind, or a predator. Our ancestors who doubted survived. The ones who ignored uncertainty didn't. Your brain still operates this way. In trading, uncertainty is everywhere. Every candle, every pullback, every drawdown, every false breakout. Your rational brain sees market structure. Your emotional brain sees threat. So doubt isn't telling you your strategy is wrong. Doubt is telling you, be careful. You might get hurt. It's trying to protect you from emotional pain, not financial loss. Because financial loss hurts the account, but emotional pain hurts the identity. And identity loss is the deepest pain a trader can feel.
Why the first loss destroys trust, even if the strategy is good. This is where most traders fail. When you test a strategy on paper, you're emotionally neutral. Losses make sense. Drawdowns feel logical. Probabilities feel safe. But the moment you experience the first real loss with real money, your brain attaches meaning to it. Not, this loss is part of the system, but maybe this strategy is flawed. Maybe I shouldn't have taken that trade. Maybe I missed something. Maybe the market changed. Maybe I need to adjust the rules. You are no longer evaluating the trade. You are evaluating yourself. The loss isn't a data point anymore. It becomes a threat to your identity. I thought I understood this. Why did this happen? And because humans hate emotional uncertainty, your brain goes into protection mode. It pushes you to modify the strategy, even though the strategy is not the problem. This is why most traders never get past the early stages of mastery. They abandon every system the moment a loss touches their identity. It's not the loss that kills trust. It's the meaning you attach to it. Professionals lose and feel nothing. Amateurs lose and feel attacked. The emotional trauma of drawdowns. Let's go deeper, into the painful part no one talks about. Every trader has a story, a moment in their journey where they lost more than they expected, a time where they blew an account, entered a trade too big, chased a loss, revenge traded, or trusted a strategy right before it failed for days. Even if years have passed, that trauma stays inside you. Your brain never forgets emotional pain. When it senses a similar situation, it tries to protect you by doubting the trade, by resisting the entry, by closing early, by modifying rules, by interfering mid-trade, not because your strategy doesn't work, but because your nervous system remembers the last time you trusted something and got hurt. Your body reacts before your mind even understands what's happening. This is why so many traders feel blocked, stuck, or paralyzed. It's not mental weakness, it's emotional conditioning. Why you trust other people's strategies more than your own. Here's one of the strangest realities in trading psychology. Many traders trust other people's signals, strategies, or analysis more than their own. Why? Because using someone else's strategy removes emotional responsibility. If the trade loses, it wasn't my fault. If it wins, good, I picked the right person to follow. But when you create the system, You take all the blame. The strategy becomes an extension of your identity. Every loss feels personal. Every mistake feels like self-judgment. It's easier to trust strangers than to trust yourself because you don't judge them emotionally. You don't blame them for losses. You don't attach meaning to their mistakes. You don't tie your self-worth to their performance. But with yourself, everything is personal. And as long as trading is personal, you will never trust your own strategy. The identity conflict. I built this strategy, but I don't feel worthy of winning with it. This is the deepest layer of the problem. It's not about logic, it's not about technicals, it's not about education. It's about who you think you are. Ask yourself honestly, do you truly believe you deserve consistency? Do you believe you're capable of trading like a professional? Do you believe you can stay disciplined long enough? Do you believe you're worthy of success? Most traders subconsciously don't. They want success, they desire success, but they don't believe they deserve it or that they can sustain it. So every time they get close, they sabotage themselves. Not because the strategy is flawed, but because their identity doesn't match the results they seek. Your hands can't execute what your mind doesn't believe. Your mind can't believe what your identity rejects. And your identity can't change until you confront the truth. You don't trust your strategy because you don't trust yourself. How losses shatter belief, and how belief can be rebuilt. Belief is fragile. One bad day can shatter it. One mistake can shake it. One over-leveraged trade can break it completely. But belief is also rebuildable, slowly, carefully, intentionally, not by learning new strategies, not by watching more analysis, not by memorizing more technicals. Belief is rebuilt through one thing: consistent execution, regardless of outcome. Because trust begins when results don't. When you follow the plan even though you're scared, when you take the trade even though you doubt, when you sit through discomfort without interfering, when you lose and still stick to the rules, when you win and still stick to the rules. Every moment of execution becomes a brick. Every brick builds structure. Every structure builds identity. And identity is the foundation of trust. You don't trust your strategy because you've never given yourself a chance to prove you can follow it. Trust is earned, and you earn it from yourself.
So the next time you hesitate, the next time you doubt your setup, the next time you feel that nervous energy rising when your strategy gives a signal, remember this: your brain is not warning you about market danger. It's warning you about emotional danger. It's trying to protect your identity, not your account. But your identity is not under threat. Your growth depends on surrender, not control, on execution, not avoidance, on commitment, not distraction. Your strategy isn't waiting to prove itself. It's waiting for you to believe in it again, to give it a chance, to give yourself a chance. And that starts with the next trade, the next decision, the next moment of uncertainty. Because trust isn't built in winning trades. Trust is built in the moments where you choose courage over fear. Rebuilding trust: how to repair the relationship between you and your strategy. You can't force yourself to trust anything. Not a person, not a process, and definitely not a trading strategy. Trust can't be demanded. It must be earned. Slowly, quietly, repeatedly. And rebuilding trust with your strategy is no different from rebuilding trust in a relationship, because that's exactly what it is: a relationship between your mind, your method, and your identity.
Somewhere in your trading journey, that relationship broke. Maybe it was one traumatic loss. Maybe it was a series of small, self-sabotaging decisions. Maybe it was one day where fear drowned your logic. Whatever the cause, now you stand here, looking at your strategy, knowing it works, knowing it has potential, and still feeling disconnected. So how do you rebuild trust with a system you keep betraying? You rebuild it the same way you rebuild trust with a person. First, you stop lying. Second, you stop breaking promises. And third, you start proving your commitment through action. This is how confidence grows. This is how identity evolves. This is how a trader becomes someone who can finally execute. Let's break it down. Stop lying to yourself, the first step to rebuilding trust. Every time you say, "I'll follow the plan this time," and you don't, you teach your subconscious one thing: my words don't mean anything. This is why you can't take your own plan seriously, not because the plan is bad, but because you've broken your word too many times. You lie to yourself with little things. "I'll wait for the candle to close. I won't move my stop loss. I won't take any more trades today. I'll stop after 2 losses. I'll respect my risk. I'll stick to one strategy." You say these things, but your actions don't match them. And over time, your brain stops believing you. You can't rebuild trust with your strategy if you don't rebuild trust with yourself first. This is why rule following feels impossible. You're trying to build consistency on top of a broken psychological foundation. Before you expect discipline from yourself, you must become someone whose words matter again. And that starts with small, simple commitments, the kind you can actually keep. Because nothing rebuilds trust faster than keeping your word. Identity before execution. Becoming the trader who can follow a plan. Most traders try to fix execution before identity. But execution is a symptom. Identity is the source. You can't follow a strategy that contradicts who you currently believe you are. If deep down you believe, "I always mess things up. I can't stay consistent. I panic under pressure. I'm emotional. I'm impulsive. I'm not disciplined," then no strategy in the world can save you. Because the moment the chart moves, your identity takes control. Your hands won't execute differently than your beliefs, and your beliefs are shaped by your past. The losses, the mistakes, the emotional scars. Professional traders don't just trade differently. They see themselves differently. They identify as someone capable of structure, patience, consistency. Identity is the software running in the background. Strategy is just the app. If the software is corrupted, the app crashes every time. So how do you fix identity? You don't do it with affirmations or hyping yourself up. You do it with evidence. Small wins of discipline, small moments of consistency, small acts of keeping your word. These moments build the belief, "I can do this. I can trust myself." And once you trust yourself, you naturally begin trusting your strategy.
Repetition creates belief. Why trust is built, one trade at a time. People think belief comes first. In reality, belief comes last. First comes action, then repetition, then identity, then belief. You can't wait until you feel confident to follow your plan. You will never feel confident at the beginning. Belief is born from seeing yourself do the right thing repeatedly. When you take a trade, even though you feel doubt, when you stick to the stop loss even though it hurts, when you hold through drawdown with composure, when you take a loss and don't revenge trade, when you skip a setup because it doesn't fit your rules, when you wait for the candle close instead of guessing, each moment becomes a brick. Each brick becomes a structure. And that structure becomes trust.
Trust isn't loud. Trust isn't dramatic. Trust isn't motivational. Trust is quiet. Trust is steady. Trust is built in silence. Forgiveness, the step traders avoid but desperately need. Here's something you probably never considered. You don't trust your strategy because you haven't forgiven yourself for the times you failed it. You still carry shame from your blown account. You still carry guilt from revenge trades. You still carry anger from opportunities you ruined. You still carry embarrassment from mistakes you can't forget. These emotional wounds create a subconscious belief: I can't be trusted. And because the mind hates feeling pain, you avoid responsibility by avoiding execution. You avoid executing by doubting your strategy. You doubt your strategy by sabotaging your trades. It's easier to blame the system than to face shame. So you keep switching strategies, thinking it's improving when you're really just escaping yourself. You need to forgive yourself, not because you deserve it, but because your growth depends on it. You cannot build trust while carrying the weight of self-judgment. Forgiveness clears the emotional system. It allows new behavior to take root. It makes space for consistency. And most importantly, it disconnects your identity from your past mistakes. You aren't the trader who blew the account anymore. You're the trader who learned from it. Emotional exposure therapy, training your nervous system to trust again. This is one of the deepest concepts in trading psychology, and almost nobody talks about it. Your strategy requires you to tolerate uncomfortable emotions: uncertainty, boredom, drawdown, temporary redness, slow-moving candles, delayed gratification, missed trades, normal loss. But your nervous system is conditioned to panic in these moments. So when discomfort appears, your body reacts before your mind can think. This means you cannot rebuild trust intellectually. You must rebuild it somatically, through exposure, repetition, and emotional resilience training. Here's how. Step 1. Start with micro risk. Trade tiny size. Size so small that your nervous system doesn't activate. This teaches your subconscious, I am safe during execution. Step 2. Hold trades to completion, no matter what. Not for profit, for rewiring. You're teaching your brain certainty in discomfort. Step 3. Normalize losses. Do not evaluate your worth through outcomes. Outcome-based identity destroys trust faster than any losing streak. Step 4. Celebrate execution, not results. Say, I followed my plan perfectly, not I won money. This is how professionals think, and this is how amateurs evolve. The ritual of renewal, reconnecting to your strategy every day. Every professional trader has rituals, not because they're superstitious, but because rituals create emotional alignment with their strategy. You need a ritual too, a moment to reconnect your mind with your method before trading. Something like reading your plan out loud, reviewing yesterday's execution, visualizing yourself following rules, breathing to calm the nervous system, removing distractions, affirming your role. I am an executor, not a predictor. This is not fluff. This is neuropsychology. You're priming your brain for consistency. A ritual signals the identity. I am someone who trades with structure. Identity triggers belief. Belief triggers trust. Trust triggers execution. Execution triggers results. This is how professionals prepare. This is how consistency becomes possible.
Trust your strategy by trusting the future version of yourself. Many traders don't trust their strategy because they worry about future pain, future losses, future drawdowns, future frustration, future doubt, future emotional reactions. You fear that the future version of yourself will break down. So, you don't commit. You don't go all in emotionally. You keep the door open to escape. But the future version of yourself isn't born through fear. He is born through commitment. Trusting your strategy is actually trusting the person you are becoming. You're not trading for today. You're trading for the trader you'll be 6 months from now. That trader will be stronger, calmer, more confident, more collected, more trusting. Trust grows with time, but only if you give it a chance. The recommitment process. How to finally trust your strategy and yourself again. At some point in every trader's journey, something breaks. It might be a devastating loss. It might be a moment you panicked. It might be a time you betrayed your own rules. It might be a day the market humbled you so deeply that a part of you never recovered. And from that moment on, you weren't the same trader. Your confidence faded. Your belief weakened. Your trust dissolved. You stopped trusting the chart. You stopped trusting your rules. You stopped trusting yourself. But here's the truth. You don't rebuild trust by looking backward. You rebuild trust by choosing to recommit forward. This moment, right now, can become a turning point. Not because you discovered a new strategy, but because you finally understand the psychology behind your old one. This is the moment where your identity shifts, where your relationship with your strategy heals, where you step into a more disciplined, more grounded version of yourself. Let's begin. The 3 fundamental truths you must accept before trust can return. Truth 1. Your strategy doesn't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. You've spent months, maybe years, trying to perfect your system. Adding indicators, tweaking entries, adjusting risk-reward, optimizing filters, chasing a magic formula. But you don't need perfection. You need reliability. A strategy doesn't need to win every time. It just needs statistical validity. Your job is not to predict every move. Your job is to execute your edge with discipline. Trust doesn't come from perfect results. Trust comes from consistent behavior. Truth 2. Losing doesn't destroy trust. Interference does. You think you lose trust because your strategy experiences drawdown. But no, drawdown is not the killer. You lose trust because you moved your stop. You closed early. You chased a candle. You took impulse trades. You skipped trades you needed to take. You broke your plan under pressure. You fought the strategy instead of following it. Losses don't destroy trust. Self-betrayal destroys trust. When you deviate from your system, you teach your brain, I cannot rely on myself under pressure. Nothing injures confidence more deeply than self-interference. And nothing restores confidence faster than self-control. Truth 3. You will never trust your strategy until you stop treating it as a prediction machine. Your system is not a fortune teller. It's not here to guarantee the next candle. It's not here to eliminate uncertainty. A strategy is a probability engine, a statistical framework, a set of rules designed to exploit repeatable behavior in the market. But you've been asking it to do something it cannot do: make you feel safe. No strategy will ever remove uncertainty. No setup will ever remove fear. No entry will ever remove doubt. You don't trust your strategy because you expect certainty. You will only trust it when you embrace uncertainty. This is the mental shift that separates professionals from everyone else. The recommitment process: how to rebuild trust one layer at a time. Rebuilding trust is not an event. It is a process, a ritual, a psychological reset. Here is the exact process professionals use to re-anchor themselves. Step 1. The reset. Start small, trade clean. Drop the size. Drop the pressure. Drop the need to win. Start with micro risk. Risk so small that your nervous system doesn't activate. Why? Because you're rewiring behavior, not chasing profit. When the brain is calm, it learns. When the brain is in fear, it resists. Trading small gives your mind the space to rebuild trust. This is where you reestablish emotional safety. This is where the healing begins. Step 2. The observer mode. Collect evidence, not emotions. For the next 20 to 30 trades, your job is not to feel confident. Your job is to collect data. Track each trade. Track your emotions. Track whether you followed the rules. Track whether you interfered. You are not measuring the strategy. You are measuring yourself. You are rebuilding trust through observation. You're teaching your brain, I can follow the plan. I can stay stable. I can execute. Over time, this becomes evidence. Evidence becomes identity. Identity becomes trust. Step 3. The replication loop. Repeat the right behavior until it sticks. Your only goal for this phase is repetition. Not perfection, not high win rate, not big profits. Repetition. Execution becomes muscle memory. Muscle memory becomes confidence. Confidence becomes trust. And trust becomes automatic. Step 4. The alignment check. Does my identity match my method? Ask yourself, does my personality match this strategy? Does my risk tolerance match this system's volatility? Does my schedule match the market conditions? Does this style reward my strengths or punish my weaknesses? Because many traders don't trust their strategy simply because they're trading a system misaligned with their psychological profile. If the strategy demands patience, but you're impulsive, you'll break it. If it demands quick reaction, but you're slower, you'll freeze. If it demands fast decisions under pressure, you'll panic. Matching strategy to personality is not optional. It is essential. Your strategy must fit you, not the other way around. Step 5. The emotional rehearsal. Train your nervous system before you trade. Before you execute live trades, rehearse the emotions. The fear of entering the discomfort of drawdown, the urge to interfere, the tension before candle close, the panic of consolidation, the temptation to close early. Visualize yourself staying calm, breathing slowly, watching the chart without reacting. When you rehearse emotional situations beforehand, your brain doesn't panic when they happen. This is one of the most powerful tools in trading psychology: emotional preconditioning. Step 6. The commitment contract. I follow the plan, not my emotions. Write down your core commitments. I follow my strategy exactly as written. I accept uncertainty without interference. I respect my stop loss no matter what. I don't take trades outside my system. I execute consistently, whether I win or lose. Keep it beside your desk. Read it before every session. This isn't motivational fluff. This is identity reinforcement. Every time you read your commitments, you remind your brain, I am a structured trader. I am a disciplined trader. I am a trader who can be trusted. Consistency becomes a part of who you are, not a behavior you force. Step 7. Execution first, emotion later. Your job is not to feel good. Your job is to execute. Most traders think, I'll follow the plan once I feel confident. But that's backwards. You feel confident after following the plan, not before. Professionals don't wait for confidence. They execute their system precisely, consistently, calmly, even in doubt, fear, hesitation, uncertainty. Execution creates confidence, not the other way around. This is why professionals trust their strategies and amateurs don't. Amateurs wait for emotions. Professionals wait for signals. The moment you finally trust again, one day, and it won't happen with fireworks, you'll take a trade. You'll follow it perfectly. You won't interfere. You won't panic. You won't check every tick. You won't jump in and out. You won't second-guess yourself. You will simply act. Calm, clean, precise, disciplined. And in that moment, you'll feel something shift inside you. Not excitement, not fear, not adrenaline, but peace. The peace that comes from alignment. The peace that comes from structure. The peace that comes from self-trust. That is the moment you become a different trader. Not because the strategy changed, but because you changed. And that is when trust becomes natural, automatic, effortless. You will finally feel what professionals feel. I don't need certainty. I don't need control. I don't need perfection. I only need to execute my edge and let the probability unfold. At that point, you are not just following your strategy. You are becoming the trader your strategy was designed for, and the beginning of the trader you were always meant to be. Trust is not built in outcome. Trust is built in identity, in discipline, in repetition, in emotional resilience. You don't need a new system. You don't need a new indicator. You don't need a new mentor. You need trust. Trust in your strategy. Trust in your edge. Trust in your future self. And that trust begins today. Not when you win. Not when you feel ready. Not when your emotions are calm. But in this moment, right here, where you decide, I recommit. I follow my plan. I trust my system. I trust myself. This is the psychology of belief. This is the mindset of consistent traders. This is the beginning of your transformation.